morning. Today is the 21st day of the second Adar, the 31st of March. And we're going to start Shemini. Shemini literally means the 8th. And the first verse is Vayhi Bayom Shemini. It was on the 8th day of the inauguration of the tabernacle and the induction of the priests. And so let's look at what the meaning of the number 8 is internally. So the number 8 represents the integration of divine inspiration into our souls. The 8th day of inaugurating the tabernacle is the first day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, which will be in about 9 days this year. This is the day when Aaron and his sons began their service. They actually began to serve in the tabernacle. It is the day when the Shemini began to reside amongst the Jewish people. The Shemini is the divine presence. And the idea here is that this first day of Nisan, it says in the Medrash, it took 10 crowns, 10 different things that started on this day. In any case, it was also, apart from being the first of Nisan, it's the 8th day. So that's what we're focusing on. What does the number 8, which is how the Torah describes it. The Torah doesn't tell us what date on the calendar it was, although it's possible to calculate it. That's how we know. But it doesn't tell it explicitly. So what the Torah wants from us is to focus on the number 8. The number 8 is emphasized as the name of this Torah portion, Shemini, which means 8th. It is the only Torah portion whose name is a number. In certain years, not this year, but in certain years, outside the land of Israel, we read from this portion a total of 8 times. A popular saying that the Lubavitcher Rebbe would quote highlights the similarity between 3 words: Shemini, meaning the 8th, and 8, the number 8 itself, Shemini Shmona, and Shmeina, which means fat. And it's like a linguistic pun. So the Lubavitcher Rebbe used to say that a year in which the portion is read 8 times will be a fat one. That is, a year blessed with material and spiritual prosperity. So this is not this year, but many times this is the case. Numbers are not merely arbitrary values. Each number has meaning, not only as an amount, but as a unique expression of quality. Numbers are the building blocks that construct our world. They are one of the most important foundations of human thought. Kabbalah often deals with the qualitative mysteries found in numerical equivalences of words, and we've talked a little bit about that over the past 2 years. I wanted to say something about the importance of numbers. Numbers are not good or bad, they're neutral. And it's up to us, actually, to take each number and to, like everything in our lives, try to learn it, try to understand it in a positive sense. So somebody would say, for instance, 13 is an unlucky number. So we say, no, 13 is the value of love, 13 is the value of 1. There's many different options, so as not to get stuck in one particular way of thinking. And that really is, one would say, the path of the inner teachings of the Torah in a nutshell. It's to be able to know enough so that whatever the case, whatever the situation is, to try to look at it in a good light, to try to see it as something positive. And by doing that, we're actually we're pushing the entire reality into a positive state. So, what is the meaning of the number 8? In the Torah, 8 often appears in conjunction with the number 7, as in the verse in Ecclesiastes, give a portion to 7 and also to 8. That's in Ecclesiastes 11:2. 8 often reflects the culmination of a series of 7. So, for instance, the festival of Shemini Atzeret, it's a festival in and of itself, but it follows the 7 days of Sukkot, the 7 days of the Feast of Tabernacles, as they call it. Shavuot follows 7 weeks of counting the Omer, and in that sense it's like the 8th, because there's 7 weeks, and then the 8th week is Shavuot, together with the 6 extra days in which the sacrifices that needed to be brought on Shavuot could be brought, even though they're weekdays. And the Jubilee year follows 7 cycles of the sabbatical year. In the Torah portion of Shemini, there is a special significance to the 8th day of the inauguration of the tabernacle, because we know that it came after 7 days in which Moses would construct the tabernacle and take it apart. The number 6 represents the 6 extremes of the space dimension. The number 7 represents the space that fills those extremes, meaning the space inside the 6, let's call it the 6 sides of a cube. Shabbat, the 7th day of the week, follows the 6 work days. Just as the soul permeates the body, so the higher consciousness of rest penetrates the days of the week. So 6 represents the inanimate world around us. 7 infuses it with life. But then the number 8 represents the divine light that surrounds all worlds. It is the miraculous level of being that lies beyond nature. When revealed, it inspires the natural world to reveal divinity. So when we think of the number 8, we have to see it as the culmination of 6, 7, and 8. 6 being the inanimate, 7 being already life, but 8 being the supernatural, being the divine. There's a famous poem that we sing on Passover Eve during the Seder. A lot of people sing this, and it's known as 13 Who Knows, or 1 Who Knows 1. We start from 1 and we count all the way up to 13, and it's like the beginning of Jewish education for numbers, and it's that every number symbolizes something positive. So when we say who knows 8, the answer is 8 are the days of circumcision. A Jewish child is circumcised on the 8th day after birth. This manifests the Jewish ability to connect to and reveal a higher dimension of consciousness, because the 8th day is always after he's already done 7 days that included the Shabbat. So he's reached already what we call life, but now he's receiving the soul. He's revealing a higher dimension of his consciousness. On the national level, this manifested in the miracle that took place on the 8th day of the inauguration of the tabernacle. So the 8th day is almost like the day of circumcision in that sense. The revelation of divinity is beyond the serene cycles of nature. The moment in which divine light is infused into the finite realm of reality is an intensely awe-inspiring event. As Moses and Aaron blessed the nation, fire descended from heaven upon the altar, and the entire nation fell on their faces before the revelation of the divine presence. And we'll be speaking more about this verse, which is in Leviticus 9:24 during the week, God willing. The commandment to circumcise a Jewish boy on the 8th day after birth appears in Parashat Tazria, which is the Torah portion that follows Shemini. This is another indication that Shemini, 8, and Fat are connected, because after we do the Shemini, then we see how the next parsha is also related to the same revelation. It's like the fat is spilling over and giving itself over to the next Torah portion. During the inauguration of the tabernacle, Moses served as high priest. For 7 days he played the starring role. Moses has a unique relationship with the number 7. He is the 7th generation from Abraham. We have Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, his son Levi, Kehat, Levi's son, Amram, and Moses. Regarding Moses, the sages state that all 7th are endeared. The Medrash explains that immediately after creation, the divine presence hovered just above mundane reality. All that was required to manifest the supernatural in the natural was for man to refine himself by keeping the one commandment not to eat from the tree of knowledge. But Adam and Eve did not follow God's command, and the Shekhinah removed itself to the first heaven above mundane reality. After each successive sin of mankind, it distanced itself, meaning the divine presence, distanced itself further until it reached what's called the 7th heaven. Abraham brought it down to the 6th heaven, Isaac to the 5th, Jacob to the 4th, and so on until Moses, the endeared 7th, who erected the tabernacle and brought the divine presence back to ground level on the 7th day. But then on the 8th day of inauguration, Aaron took over from Moses. He became the high priest and the antecedent of all future high priests. Like his younger brother Moses, Aaron is also the seventh generation from Abraham. In terms of bringing the Shekhinah, the divine presence, into the world, he is the eighth generation, as we call it. He completed the work of the seventh generation, that's Moses, and Moses is the hero of the generation that received the Torah. But the eighth day of inauguration was Aaron's day. Aaron's connection to the number 8 manifests in the 8 garments worn by the high priest, and we've talked about that also. The numerical value of Aaron, is 256, which is a product of 32 and 8. So it's a product, it's a multiple of 8. One permutation of Aaron means has appeared. This nir'eh. This word appears in the phrase following the inauguration of the tabernacle, for on this day God has appeared to you. On this day God has nir'ah to you. The clouds of glory that surrounded the nation in the wilderness were in Aaron's merit. Aaron's name clearly alludes to citing the Shekhinah, which manifested in the fire that descended upon the altar, and in the cloud that appeared at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Technically speaking, Aaron's children were the 8th generation from Abraham. They also play a principal role in this Torah portion. 2 of Aaron's sons, Nadav and Avihu, died in the overly fervent service of God, and as we'll see, this had to do with the people falling down on their faces. Elazar succeeded his father as the high priest while Moses was still alive. He and his brother Itamar, Aaron's 4th son, eventually merited to enter the Holy Land to completely reveal the Shekhinah there. We are out of time. The article is still long. There's another whole section that you might find interesting about music. And with that, we'll end today. Thank you very much for joining. I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.